very much for coming in today. Is anyone that's not from Whangarei? Where do they come from? Auckland, awesome. So, brilliant. Where are you guys from? Auckland. Auckland as well. Okay, brilliant. But otherwise, the rest of you are Whangarei based. Yep. Brilliant. Okay. It's nice to know there's a thriving community. Although before I get too far ahead of myself, how many of you are not, we'll call the general term, vegan? So you've come all the way from Auckland to a Vegan Expo and you're not even vegan. Why are you here?
With friends.
So they made you come for a little roadie. It's nice weather. We'll go to the beach, I promise, but we'll pop in first.
But we are like 90% vegetarian.
Okay.
I mean, I am.
Vegetarian.
Yeah.
90%.
I think they're about.
And 10% vegan.
No.
Okay, good. You've got to start somewhere. Look, I started off as vegetarian. I'm starting to get old now, I think. Probably about 18, 19 years ago. So I was vegetarian. No meat, no chicken or red meat, but dairy for sure, cheese, fish, eggs, until probably about 4 years ago I started the transition, not with the mindset of becoming plant-based, but with the mindset of first started understanding where fish came from, where it was caught, how it was caught, and toxicity of the water, the plastics and so on. So that's when I cut out fish, and then everything led to one thing to another until I actually became plant-based and what it actually started understanding what plant-based actually meant and why. So I'll touch on some of that here, but it's a journey. I do consultations with and not just athletes, anyone who wants to transition to a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So it's giving them the tools, it's giving them the support as well, because especially when you're the only one in a family that wants to change the way you eat, it can be quite a challenge, where you say, look, I don't want to eat this, and so I'll make your own food, or, you've got kids or whatever the case is. So it's about a support as much as it is giving tools and understanding as to why we're doing that. Okay, so let's get cracking. So this presentation is a very small snapshot of workshops that I deliver around New Zealand and parts of Australia. In fact, 3 weeks' time I'm doing one in Auckland, which is 2 hours long, so I go into a lot more depth in terms of maximising nutrient intake, and we go into a lot of depth with a lot of other stuff. So today is just more to give you a basic understanding. So to start off with myself, my name is Ben Eitelberg. I've been coaching professionally for 9 years now, 9 years, coming up to 10. So predominantly triathlon, but I coach a lot of ultra marathon athletes, and so but from complete beginners, those that want to change their lifestyle, become active and have some goals, to I've had the pleasure of coaching athletes stepping on podiums. For me myself, I've been competing my whole life. It's my competitive nature, but also I love being outside, I love being active, and I love challenging myself. In addition to my accreditations with coaching, I've also got a recently acquired diploma in vegan nutritionist, and also undertaking sports nutrition diploma as well. Now, it's more to give me extra tools to what I've already been doing and teaching. Right, so we're always looking for that magic pill, whether it's weight loss or whether it's energy, performance, whatever. It's like, what's that one thing that's going to change, the outcome? And one of the things I've come to the realization with a lot of these presentations and talks and information I've been passing on is this obsession about performance recovery. Right, what are we going to do to improve the performance? What are we going to do to improve recovery? But I actually realized that you've got to take a step back and think, well, if my health is not where it should be, then I'm not going to achieve the best with my performance and recovery. And it's mutually, there's a direct relationship between your health and the performance and recovery. Take a seat, please. Come in. Thank you.
Shut that door.
Can I still lead people in?
Sorry?
Can I still?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a direct correlation, and we sometimes miss that picture because there's an interesting survey done many years ago. I can't remember where it was done or how, but it surveyed a lot of top performing athletes across multiple sports, and we asked one question: And I asked if you could take a pill that would make you the world champion, Olympic champion, the most untouchable athlete, legendary athlete you can be for a year, and then you will die, would you take that pill? And 100% of those surveys said yes. Okay, it's an obsession. It's why these drugs in sport. People are driven to be the best despite the consequences of potentially being caught, being banned, being ousted, or whatever. But to live that. And in nutrition, it's the same thing. That we look to eat and consume elements that will make us better, but is actually good for your health. And the longevity aspect is now the angle that I've really pushed with a lot of my athletes, because the majority of the athletes I coach are not professionals. They're people like yourselves. I want to run a marathon, I want to run a 10K, I want to do a triathlon, I want to do this or that. So why are you doing it? You're doing it as a lifestyle choice, which means you don't want to do it for a year. You're investing money in equipment and time, investing money in a coach like myself. You want to do it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You want to be that 80-year-old that is coming last in a marathon but is doing the marathon. You want to extend that. Okay, so longevity is important. How do you get longevity? Health, optimum health, then comes back to your performance. It's changing your mindset. Okay. So what are the benefits of a whole food plant-based lifestyle? There's plenty, but there's 3 key ones I'll talk on now. Okay. So firstly, weight management. Okay, so plant-based eaters, what's the difference between being vegan and plant-based? Sorry, because I keep referring to the term plant-based. We're at a Vegan Expo, but what's the difference between the two? Is there a difference? What does vegan mean? What does being vegan mean?
Vegan's about all animal stuff, like not wearing no shoes and stuff.
It's a lifestyle,
Yeah.
not using animal products to consume or wear or whatever the case is. Okay. Does vegan necessarily mean it's healthy?
No.
Right. This is key. Who's here watched the Game Changers documentary? Right. Good. Inspired. Okay. But there was one thing in the Game Changers for me that kind of stuck out. They were eating vegan. If you look at these American football players and these other athletes that were serving, they were eating vegan, but they weren't eating pure plant-based. Could they get an even better output? Yes, because vegan means non-animal product. So you can still have hugely refined, processed oils. Oils are a real bad thing, okay, for many reasons. But that's vegan. Now, yes, I had a sausage roll today. It was delicious, but it's not the kind of food I normally eat. And I did have that sandwich thing. It's a treat. I do when I go to eat food. You got to support local businesses. But there's a difference between that. So when I talk about plant-based, I'm talking about achieving or aiming for the optimum. Okay. If you really want to make the change, make it to your best ability. If you've had a health element, I used to suffer from rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, if you've had a heart attack, develop type 2 diabetes, whatever the case is, if you've got a health element, you need to go extreme. You need to go perfect. Still young and everything's absolutely fine. You're okay. You know, have a few bad things and you're okay. Okay, so back to the slide. So sustainable weight management. So people on a plant-based diet tend to be leaner than non-plant-based eaters. So vegan eaters can still carry a bit of weight. For instance, if you're eating a lot of refined oils, fatty foods, salty foods, that kind of thing. And it's a diet, it's not a diet, but it's a diet that once you lose the weight, it's sustainable. Okay, because many diets you go on, you lose some weight and then you put it back on and so on. But it's a lifestyle that once you clean up your eating, your body figures out the weight it needs to be at and it's easier to manage. Am I talking rubbish? No, I'm going to refer to a whole lot of studies. Most of my studies are referred to are from PubMed, so they've been internationally publicised. And the outtakes, increased carbohydrate and fibre intake are part of a plant-based high carbohydrate. Now, very quickly, a plant-based lifestyle is high carbohydrate. It's high carbs. It's not a low carb. As people think to lose weight, we're going to cut out carbs. Okay, so by default, a whole food plant-based lifestyle, if you have a varied plate on your plate of all good vegetables, fruit, legumes, and grains and all that, it's usually 70, 75%, maybe pushing 80% carbs, 10 to 15% protein, 10 to 15% fats. Okay, so it's a high carb diet. All right, and by default, a low fat diet. So that kind of diet affects on weight, body composition, insulin resistance, Another study, now this is very local, the Broad study. One of the two doctors behind it, Dr. Luke Wilson, I don't know if any of you have heard him speak in the past. I've had the privilege of him being a guest speaker at my workshop in Wellington earlier this year. They did a study in Gisborne. It was a world first of its nature outside of the US, where they took a population. They didn't even give them meal plans. They just gave them the tools and told them, look, this is how you should eat. And the outtake of the study was so amazing that initially it was only meant to be 3 or 6 months. They went back even after 12 months and saw even more remarkable results. So Gisborne, if we look at the demographics, typically more Maori community, a lot of overweight and a lot of health elements, and it was remarkable that this was the outcome that, without limiting energy intake, we weren't counting calories or anything, we were just changing the way they eat, and the health improvements and the weight improvements and the diabetes and the cholesterol and so on drastically improved, if not eradicated for some. So it was a very fascinating study. So if you ever get the chance to hear Dr. Luke Wilson, he does talk about this study quite often. Right, the next one, reduced risk of mortality. I'll refer to a book called The China Study. It's the first book. If people say, what books will you recommend that I should read? By Dr. T. Colin Campbell. The China Study is the first book I recommend you read before any other book. Okay, it's a chunky book. Make sure it's a second edition. But it was a fascinating study done in China, in rural China. So this is in the 70s, before today, where things have changed quite drastically. And no animal products pretty much consumed. They didn't even know what cardiovascular disease, cancer, anything like that was. Very soy-based, the consumption of food. But also the more laboratory type studies they conducted, they show how with animal-based protein, they could turn on, turn off, turn back on, turn back off the cancer cells, the cancer genes. Okay, so there's a lot of studies to support that. I quite like this quote here. I suppose the single injunction, do not eat animal products, is potential to do more for world health than all the Australia's wisdom and all the world's medicinal libraries. So, all this fantastic world of research, and let's look for a cancer cure, this cure, that cure. Changing your diet can have the biggest impact on your health. So again, we've got some research here to refer to. So plant-based diets associated with significant improvement in emotional well-being, physical well-being, depression, quality of life. That's not just your health. Am I going to have a heart attack, or do I have bad cholesterol and so on? It's your mood, it's your well-being. Everything's interconnected. And then, of course, a light environmental footprint. Less stress on the environment, we know that with the intensive farming. And of course, it's the kinder approach as well. So when we talk about from animal rights, do we need to kill an animal? Do we need to milk a cow to gain our calcium and our proteins? We don't. Okay, so it's an approach that, we don't need to go down that path anymore. Did we? Maybe. Different circumstances for survival. Are we surviving? We've got choice. We've got ability to make a choice. We don't need to do things for the sake of surviving. So just from an environmental point of view, I am a little bit passionate about, or become a lot more passionate about it in more recent years. And part of the reason for this is I'm an athlete. I like to get out there. I drove up from Auckland. There's some stunning scenery. I do know the area a bit. I've competed up here. And it affects me, because how many times now in the latter years have I gone to a triathlon or a swim-based open water swim event and the swim is cancelled because of water quality? Okay, I now refuse, which is a shame because I'm losing out on money on running sessions, to swim in Auckland Harbour now, because that water quality is disgusting. Okay, that's different harbour because of city build-ups, but let me just quickly explain this. But if we look at everything, I think is eggs. So from eggs upward, we can see the I guess the effect it has on everything from greenhouse emissions to eutrophication. Eutrophication is the nitrate content in the water. So too much goes into too many nutrient-rich elements such as nitrates from the land, from fertilizers and so on that end up in the rivers is too much nutrients, so it encourages algae growth. Algae growth then affects the health of the water, and we've seen it even in Taupo as well. Last summer, there was a massive algae outbreak, and the water was the Ironman 7.3 was the swim was cancelled because of it. So it affects our water quality, and it affects water quality. What else is it affecting? And everything surrounding there. And you can see the hotspots, and the hotspots are all a lot of the built-up areas around main cities and towns, so Rotorua, Taupo. You can see all that around. Those are the areas we go and swim, or maybe not. So the culture of meat. So why has meat become such a factor that's where you get your protein, that's where you get your iron, that's where you get everything else? So we're talking about right at the beginning, meat was seen as a luxury item. Okay, it was hard to come by, expensive, so it was seen as a costly way to store calories. Okay, because it is calorie dense, but it was a costly way to do it. It was used as a condiment, as a flavour in your dishes, not the highlight of the dish like today. I have a steak with a little bit of something on the side. It was a condiment, it was a flavour. Maybe it became the broth in a soup. It was such a small component. That's what it used to be. 17th, 18th century, this is where the problem started. A chemist discovered the chemical structure of protein, and scientists determined that because muscle is made from protein, we need to eat protein. So if we are meat's consuming protein, we need to consume protein. That's the logic that they came up with. Okay? And hence, that's where the journey started. So, meat is seen as promoting weight and source of calories. So, again, in times of scarcity, it's a good thing to have. Only the rich can afford it, but we know with the American dream, everyone wants, everyone can have. So everyone starts becoming more accessible, and then everyone else in the rest of the world, well, if they have it, that's the dream. So the whole consumption of meat started accelerating, and then obviously more recently, in more recent decades, the way it's promoted, the way it's pushed through all these various diets. And never mind the Atkins diet, he died of a heart attack, and when they cut him open, he was full of visceral fat, and his arteries were absolutely full of, nice one. But yeah, that's what we're sort of consumed by in New Zealand. In the endurance sport world, the high-fat, low-carb movement, as I call it, is pushed quite heavily. That's because of, you've probably heard of Dr. Grant Schofield. He's a researcher at AUT. It's a link with the Millennium Institute of Sport. There's Dr. Libby. There's a whole bunch of well-known personalities that promote the high-fat, low-carb. So, of course, if Dr. Libby was here, Dr. Grant Schofield was speaking right now, you guys hear him, not me, because I mean, he's got these big titles and following and so on, but that's what they push. So people are certainly, I guess, misled, I'll say. And obviously it's got cheaper as well, meat. However, there's an unarguable fact that no culture has thrived on high protein diets, meat-based diets. It's been high starch, so cultivation of land. We look at the Aztecs, the Incas, the Middle East, Asia. The prime source of food was grains and legumes. Okay, for thousands of years, not meat. No civilization lasted based on a meat-heavy diet. So if we look at history, they want to bring out the paleo argument that, caveman survived on meat. Survived. But they hunted for days. What fueled them to keep hunting that animal? All right? And even then, that's been disproven now because they found a lot of artifacts that they still ground up grain into flour and so on. So there's no civilization that lasted on meat. So why sport? Why is it such a big thing? Well, it's simple. When you look at various sources, it's all meat-based. So everywhere you go, you're confronted by this whole eat meat for your gains, okay? So if you're an athlete, you go onto Ironman websites, it's like the big brand of triathlon. Well, they're talking about it. You go onto Washington Post, Daily Mail, everyone reads those articles. So you're constantly confronted by this message that meat is the way to go, okay? Whether it's right or not is a different story. It's important to note, and this is one thing I've definitely learned, is how do you identify whether a study actually makes sense? It's got to have the utilization of a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled test. It's a whole lot of jargon, but basically, it's got to be a fair test. Okay? There's so many research papers that I've subscribed to in the past, and like, oh, this is good, I'll pass it on to my athletes for information and so on. Now I read them, and it's like, hang on, all they did was this and this. Where's the actual comparison? It doesn't, like when they say Weet-Bix is the way to go because Weet-Bix is better than Fruit Loops. Well, if you're comparing one to the other, one's going to be better. But are you comparing it to whole grains and so on? Well, there's still an incredible amount of sugar in Weet-Bix. It's still, still highly refined, etc. So it's how are these tests controlled? How are these studies conducted? And that's what you've got to look for. And you can, straight away, when you read these kind of articles, it's like, yeah, it's a load of rubbish. So what nutrients do you believe you get from meat? What nutrients do we get from meat? Not believe, it's true, we actually do. So what nutrients do we get from meat? Why do we eat meat? Yes?
Iron.
Iron, okay. What else?
B12.
B12, yep.
Your favorite.
B12, iron, protein. What else? Anything else? Okay, let's forget meat. What about dairy? Why do we need to drink our milk?
Calcium.
Calcium. What else?
Protein.
Okay, protein, yeah. Magnesium. Omegas, especially from fish. High fatty fish. Got to eat your fish, your salmon. It's true, you do get those nutrients from those foods. However, as a bonus, throw it in for free, you get a whole lot of other stuff as well, and that's what the problem is. So let's talk a little bit about protein. So animal-derived and plant-based supplements. This is the first thing I get asked, especially for bodybuilders and strength-based people. They want to go plant-based. Like, oh, can you suggest a vegan protein supplement? It's like, why? Okay, so when we talk about supplements, these are isolated proteins. Isolated soy protein, isolated pea protein, isolated hemp, isolated whatever the hell you want to isolate. What does isolated mean? You've taken out that macronutrient out of that food, it's micronutrient, there's nothing in there. You've left that all behind, you've left all the fiber behind, you've just taken that protein in isolation. Okay? Whole foods work the way they work, same thing with supplements. You don't take something out in isolation, boost its potency and say, vitamin C is good for you, take 1,000 milligrams a day. Vitamin C works in conjunction with everything else in that whole food. All the vitamins, all the minerals, they work in a symbiotic relationship with each other, with the fiber in there. Take something in isolation, it can actually cause harm. It can, if you up the dose of too much of something. Okay, so that's why I put this in here, because too much of something is the problem. Let's first look at this. Clue number 1. What does the body store? Other than fat. Okay, it stores B12, right? Why? Because it's so crucial that if you don't have B12 in your system, you can have a serious problem. So it stores it. What else does it store? Glycogen, right? Carbohydrates. Let's go simple. Carbohydrates stores it as glycogen. But carbs, why? It's our primary source of fuel. So if you're going through a day, 2 days, a week of family, maybe not family because there's other issues, but you're not eating, your body needs energy. It's okay, I've got some stores. Let me grab some glycogen to keep myself going. The primary source of fuel for your brain, for your cognitive function is glycogen. So anything that's important, these are other things it stores, but anything that's important, it stores. Does it store protein? Right, so how important is it? Right, so effective health. We've spoken about excess, they both come up together, that's okay. So effective health, we spoke about earlier. Increasing, so the insulin growth factor 1 hormone that's cancer causing, so it upregulates the IGF-1 hormone, too much animal-based protein. Too much protein also puts strain on the kidneys and your liver because it's got to get rid of it. It increases the risk of kidney stones. Calcium, we'll talk a little bit about more, next slide maybe, about the can cause, create issues as a result of wording this badly. Okay, but basically it causes issues with your storage of calcium. How much protein do we need? This is from the National Academy of Sciences, Institute of Health. Your typical, your average person, 0.8 grams per kg of body weight. So what does that equate to? If you're a 50 kg person, 40 grams, 70 kg, 56 grams, 90 kg person, 72 grams. Do you know how much that is? Or do you know how little that is? Right? That's how much you need. What is protein used for? It's used to repair cells, damaged cells due to oxidative stress. Now, if you go for a run, you are causing oxidative stress in your body. That's normal, okay? So you need the protein to repair those cells. It's important to rejuvenate cells. So protein is important. So as athletes, and ironically endurance-based athletes generally a lot of the time need more protein than a bodybuilder because of that oxidative stress I spoke about. So, if you're running ultramarathon, then you're spending a lot of hours there, causing a lot of damage, then you need to undertake a lot of repair. So again, 1.2 to 1.7 grams is generally the range of how much you need. And again, look at how much that is. It's not a whole lot, and that's for an athlete. Now, do you need to take a supplement for that extra protein? No, because the majority of the time, there are exceptions, the majority of the time, that increase in protein you can easily consume and exceed from the increase in your caloric intake. You're burning more, you need to eat more. You eat more, by default you will get more protein. So if we're talking about an average person consumes 2,500 calories a day, 2,000 for a woman, 2,500 for men, roughly. There's a lot of factors to take into account. And like I said, your split of your macros, your carbs about 75%, proteins about 10 to 15%, that works out to roughly 0.8. Now you're an athlete, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 calories a day. Now that by default is giving you the 1.2 to 1.7 grams. I do not consume protein. So I used to when I was vegetarian. Whey protein, okay? Gotta get your protein straight after training, have a whey shake, get it in ya. Told my athletes, you've got to get your whey protein. I cringe at this. Okay, now that I used to tell people, that's what I used to do because protein's important for recovery. Since then, since I've been plant-based, ultra-marathon, 100-kilometer race, I was running a marathon every Saturday as part of my training, plus 3 runs a week, still doing my swimming, doing all that. Was I taking any supplements of anything? Was I taking any protein? No. Was I protein deficient? No, because I was careful with what I was eating and I was getting what I was needing from me. It's not as important as your protein to recover. There's all the antioxidants. There's all the vitamins and minerals that you need as well. So instead of a shake, my first go-to thing when I'd get home was be fruit. Get some fruit, get some natural sugar, get some vitamins and minerals to help the powerful antioxidants. That'll give me enough to get showered, cleaned up, whatever. Then I just sit down and have a proper meal. Don't eat shakes. Okay? Get all your nutrients. And there is no demonstrated benefit of consuming more than 2 grams per body weight. So again, if you're consuming too much protein, it puts strain on the body more than giving you a benefit. Sources of protein, 3 egg omelette. I've grown up my whole life eating porridge, but then it's like, I need more protein for breakfast, so I'll have a 3 egg omelette because there's more protein. Well, you're getting more protein from your oats. Plus bonus points because I make my oats with soy milk. So look how much protein I'm already consuming instead of my 3 eggs. Minus the cholesterol, minus the saturated fats, minus all the other beautiful extras that who listened to Dr. Nilbana this morning? Right. I don't think he would have said it today, but it's a quote I heard him say years ago. He's one of my heroes. Just like the way he talks and the way he presents. It's really, really good. But he said once, protein is like oxygen. Okay. If you need more oxygen, what do? You breathe more. So if you need more protein, eat more. It's a direct correlation. If you need more protein, in most instances, you need to be consuming more calories. And that is what I do with the consultations that I provide for not just athletes. I've got anyone that comes to me, just wants assistance with the transitioning or make sure the eating is right. Is the beauty of a whole food plant-based is there's no numbers, there's no weighing, there's no macro versus micro, there's no how many calories a day do I need to eat. I do the calculation of calories right at the beginning. It's part of the format you do when you start up with me. It takes like a month to complete this format. It's a lot of questions asked. And part of it is I ask you to write down a basic food diary of the last 3 to 5 days, just to give us an idea of what you eat. And I take that and I work out roughly the calories that's been consumed. Because the problem with athletes is obsession of weight. Oh, I need to be lean. Okay? And I find the majority of the times people are actually eating too little. Okay? So I just do that as an exercise to show this is how much you're consuming right now. This is what I'd recommend. These are the kind of foods, and these are roughly the calories you should be consuming. It's the first and only time I do a caloric sort of comparison with someone. And then once they get that idea, right, now, just eat. And your mindset changes because people are so obsessed with numbers and so obsessed with so many other factors. I do that as an exercise, okay? Work out the basal metabolic rate and this and that. But again, formulas are all based on what? Guesswork, right? So to go specifically by, this is X or this number, it's a gauge. It's a iron. So we spoke about iron, and iron is one of the biggest concerns, especially for women that transition to a whole food plant-based lifestyle. One of my very first workshops that I delivered, there were 2 ladies, individual, they didn't know each other, and they were very early, so I got chatting, and I said, are you plant-based? No, I used to be. So, and both of them said, why are you not anymore? Because I was concerned about my iron levels. So I went back to the meat. So it's the biggest concern. Let's first understand a little bit more about iron. So there's heme versus non-heme iron. Heme is from animal flesh, non-heme from plants. Heme, easier to absorb. Iron, yes, it's true. However, iron from animal-based products also cause oxidative stress on the body, can cause oxidative stress. I don't want to say always, but in a lot of cases can. So the problem is too much of animal-based product, based or derived iron can cause oxidative stress on the body. Plus your body cannot regulate iron from meat sources or animal sources. So especially for men, too much iron in the body becomes a problem, because for women, they've got their cycles and you can kind of manage those levels. You can go up and down, but for men especially, unless you're donating blood, that can be a problem. Whereas for non-heme iron, your body can regulate non-heme iron. So if there's too much, it blocks absorption. If there's too little iron, it upregulates, or it upregulates the absorption. So your body can control that. Now, if you go for a blood test, an iron test, beware, because your results will come lower than the standard range, or come at the lower end of that standard range of where your iron should be. It's a bit of a problem because it's based on animal-based or animal-derived iron. Okay, and I've had it with my own athletes, go for a blood test, iron levels near the low end of the spectrum, and the GP says, you've got to go on iron tablets. So I quickly reached out to Dr. Mark Craig, who I know very well. We competed together and so on, and sent a message, and I said, dude, you've got to help me. This is a recommendation she's got. Can I pass her on to you? The first thing he said is, tell her not to go on the supplements, because it'll start causing problems. Okay? So there's a difference, and we need to understand that plant-based eaters are naturally at the lower end because your body can regulate, so it can manage. It knows it's a little bit too low. Let's upregulate the absorption of it, and we don't need too much. You had a question?
Yeah, I want to talk about iron level. You're talking about ferritin or hemoglobin?
I don't know the answer specific to that. I do know I've got all my notes on that, and because I know there's differences between the two and so on. But generally, you see, if I send someone for results and they come back, I make sure that I liaise with the GP, because I don't diagnose for health issues or if there's a deficiency in something. I make that very clear with everyone. I help people transition and give them facts. But if there's a concern about something, they've actually gone, but they were talking about type 1 diabetes as well. it's like, yeah, no, you need professional guidance. So if there's an actual concern, then I've got a fantastic team of people I collaborate with here and in Australia, because I've spent time in Australia as well doing this. So I've built up some fantastic nutritionists and GPs that I refer people to. Right, I haven't put these things up. Quality versus quantity. It's also important that it's not how much iron, it's the quality. So consuming too much iron in one go, you're not going to absorb that as well as just come down and eat your food that's varied, and as long as there's iron in there, you'll be absorbing it. So absorption enhances. The first one is vitamin C. So combining vitamin C with the food will enhance the absorption of iron. So again, if you look at various cultures around the world, they've got this figured out. If you have an Indian dish, like a lentil dal or whatever, and you sometimes find a random tomato floating in that dish. It's not random, it didn't fall in there, it was specifically put in there because the vitamin C helps absorb the iron. You look at a Thai dish, why do they put a piece of lemon on the side? So to make it taste nice? No, it's the vitamin C enhancing the absorption of the iron. So for centuries, and this is part of my point, we don't need to have a degree to understand this. We don't need to be a qualified person. This is what we figured out through centuries of how to maximize our absorption of nutrients. Okay, so vitamin C, balsamic vinegar can also help absorption of iron. What inhibits the absorption are the tannins found in coffee and tea, red wine. So if you're having a steak for your iron and you're chasing it down with a glass of red wine, you're not really maximizing that. So, I drink matcha tea, so it's a concentrated form of green tea, and when I learned that, because I had my breakfast, then had my green tea and hit the road, now what I do is I just give it an hour break. So I have my breakfast, which is very iron rich because it's got cacao nibs and with my porridge, and there's a lot of iron sources in there. Instead of straight away having my green tea, I'll wait an hour. Okay, to make sure my body's done its thing, maximise its absorption, and then I'll have my beautiful green tea that's got all the other good properties, but unfortunately the tannins in that can interfere the absorption of iron. So it's a slight little change. You do read all these scaremongers that same thing with beans. When you're eating beans, the beans has got this and that, it's not good for you. And one of my athletes was told by someone, because he's always had gut issues, you shouldn't be eating legumes. I'm like, great, the most nutrient-rich food source in the night, this nutrition is telling you to not eat it at all. It's not always, it's how you prepare food. That's important. Anyway, oxalic acid, yes, it's there. It does compete, binds with iron and calcium and so on. So, but guess what? Cooking breaks it down. Okay, so the iron-rich foods like lentils, well, who eats raw lentils anyway? You cook it, it breaks down the oxalic acid, and you're fine. So it's getting the full picture. Recommended daily allowance, 8 milligrams for men. For women, it does vary depending where you're at in your life. But again, iron, when you've got to get closer to 20 milligrams, you do have to be a little bit more specific with the foods to make sure you're getting all that iron. But on a day-to-day basis, from what I found in terms of the typical foods that we eat, we're getting iron. Sources, again, there you have it. So there's a theme there with tofu, lentils, and all the other beans. So legumes are quite high in iron. Spinach, interesting thing with spinach is cooking spinach enhances the bioavailability of iron, whereas raw spinach has got high levels of nitrate. So if you're cooking will I touch on nitrate? I'll talk about nitrates a little bit later. But yeah, cooking foods is good. I mean, this is what I'll talk about in my workshop, like carrots and corn. You're increasing hugely the antioxidant effect of carrots and corn by cooking them rather than having raw. So certain foods that it's good to cook them as well. The last one, or minerals. Guess what? All minerals are found where? On the soil, right? So if we're getting calcium from the animal, if we're getting zinc and magnesium from the animal, well, where did they get it from? Okay, they didn't make anything up. B12, same thing. Okay, thing about B12 is it's a bacteria, it's a microbacteria, right, found in the soil. So animals get it because they forage. However, the argument now stands as well with grain fed and barn fed and all this, then animals that are not foraging, how much B12 are they getting as well? So even in meat eaters can be B12 deficient. The first thing I do say is if you're going plant-based, you have to take a B12 supplement. Non-negotiable. You got to get onto it. Okay? Because there's no other way of getting your B12 unless you're having fortified foods. Fortified foods means you're probably getting processed foods as well, so you want to avoid that. Calcium, so what's the problem with calcium loss? Why do people say we lose calcium? The Harvard Nurses study conducted a few years ago, quite a while ago, found that those that consume the most amount of dairy were the most susceptible to hip fractures and osteoporosis. Okay, similarly, a study found that the countries with the highest dairy consumption, we're talking about Denmark, UK, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and so on, with the highest rates of bone fractures. Highest dairy consumption, highest rate of bone fractures. What's going on? Well, we're drinking milk full calcium. So you do get calcium in milk, but here's the problem. Protein derived from animal sources create are highly acidic. As a highly acidic diet. So it creates an acidic environment in the body. What kind of environment does the body want? What's a more alkaline environment? Right? So what negates the effects of acidity, or the acidity in the body? Calcium. Hence why we lose calcium. Hence why our bones might feel the effects of that. Okay? So whilst you might get calcium from a glass of milk, you're getting the acidic environment in the body as well, which means you need even more calcium to negate that. All right, hence why it's a problem with your calcium as well. So, how much calcium do you need? 1,000 milligrams a day, roughly. But here's some good news, and this is hard to find, but this is from the World Health Organization, so it's not just some random source. But if you're on a plant-based diet, you only need 660 milligrams. And if you're salt-free, sodium-free, even less. So this whole 1,000 milligrams of calcium that you need a day is not necessarily, well, kind of true, but it's not as much of a necessity depending on what you're eating, because you might only need less, because you're not losing. Where do you get calcium from? Pretty simple. Clean places. I keep this quote because it comes from my early days of my workshops, the first ones when I used to talk a lot more about vitamins and minerals, and this is important. Whole foods composed of all your macros and all your micros, and works in perfect harmony. It's all in there. It's just this particular vegetable and that particular vegetable, this might have a little bit more of this might have a little bit more of that, a little bit less than that. That's why a varied diet makes sure you're really complementing it. But if you took one food, it pretty much has it all, just in varying amounts. Okay, includes all your amino acids. All your essential amino acids is found in plant foods. Okay, who's heard of protein combining? Good. Don't worry about it. It's another one of those myths that I actually learned at a plant-based cooking. I attended one. It was brilliant. Really opened my eyes to making food in the kitchen. It was Mullumbimby just outside of Byron Bay a couple of years ago. It's fantastic. Did about 60 dishes in 3-4 days. I put on probably 10 kgs eating too much. But our teacher there taught us about protein combining to maximize your essential amino acids. And so I didn't know that at the time. And a couple of months later, I came across the research and that's not really true. So there's a lot of misinformation that people still follow. So you've got to know your sources. Anyway, so we're going back to the theme of athletes or superhuman athletes and so on. And actually, this came up in this study was referenced in the Game Changers documentary. That the gladiators, the legionnaires, that used to march for days on end and used to fight long battles and turn around next battle. So superhuman energy and powers were predominantly eating wheat and butter. Carbohydrates, not protein. You get protein in your grain and legumes, plenty of protein in there, but they were predominantly eating carbohydrates. Guys, come around, there's plenty of seats on the other side. So there you have it. In fact, I've got a few studies I'm going to rush through because we're going to start running out of time very shortly. Vegetarian dietary practices, endurance performance, so high carbohydrate nature, can help endurance athletes. So a lot of these studies you'll find will say is as good as meat-based diet, which is good. Okay? Not necessarily about being even better. Where you're better is what the meat-based diet doesn't do. Two things. One, your recovery, because there's less inflammation. And secondly, longevity, your optimum health. Okay? So when we talk about performance, and this is why I said we've got to take our mindset away from maximizing the performance, because that might not be enough. Will it give me more energy? It will indirectly, not because your performance is improving, but your recovery is improving and your longevity. So also your health in general, like your mood, which is important. You know, we talk a lot about now mental health in New Zealand. It's not just New Zealand, it's globally. There's a lot of factors. The right food can actually boost your mood, can improve your mood. And that's important. Better mood, better motivated, more inspired to get out and exercise. Exercise is as important as well, it's important. It's an important component to lifestyle. Again, diet's high in unrefined plant foods. So again, unrefined. So the difference between vegan and plant-based. Okay? So there's a difference. So unrefined. So we're talking about whole foods. Whole food means as close as possible to the original source of its food. Okay, so minimally processed, non-refined, no oils. No oils, so important. Okay, I'm just going to flick through. Right, so, actually, no, should be one by one. Should be teasing you with it. So, why for athletes? So there's seven of them. There's probably more, but we spoke about earlier, lean body mass. Because it's a low-fat diet. Increased glycogen storage. Why? Because we're consuming more carbs, so we can store more and have it be on reserve. Interestingly, side note, keto diet. Why do people initially lose weight on a keto diet? Is because you're starving or you're depriving your body of carbohydrate. So your body's like, sweet, it's all good. I'll pull from my stores. And like I said, carbohydrate is stored in the form of glycogen, which is in water. So when you're pulling on that source of energy, you're losing water weight. So it's water weight that people generally lose at the start of their keto diet. So they do look fabulous initially because they've lost some weight, but then you've got the repercussions of it down the line. Blood viscosity. So low fat, and this is where the oil thing is important. So firstly, oil. There's no oil that is good for your health. Coconut oil phase, I was part of this. Like, yeah, put some extra coconut oil in this. Olive oil, it's not the healthy outcome that you think you're getting from it. Mediterranean diet is not about the olive oil, Jamie Oliver style. You just what's in the pot. The Mediterranean style diet is about the legumes they're eating and the vegetables and the lifestyle. The lifestyle, being active, family, having a purpose, all that kind of stuff. It's not about the olive oil. Oil is the most calorie-dense food, if you can call it, on the planet. It's the most calorie-dense. 1 tablespoon of oil can have as much calories as a big plate of salad. The salad will fill you. The oil's not. It's going to sit right there. So I need more food, and hence why we're sometimes a little bit overweight on the wrong diet. Okay? And what's it doing to your arteries? It's making them sluggish. Again, game changers. With those 2 test tubes, right? One was clear, the other one's like a bit murky. That's 1 meal of oil. Right, I spoke about the nitrates. Nitrate-rich foods turn the blood vessels into, they help them dilate, they help them relax your blood vessels. Okay, which makes blood flow a lot easier, which means it can carry your nutrients and oxygens to muscles quicker. It can slow down fatigue, not slow down. It can extend the period until the fatigue factor starts coming in. So basically, it just gives you better endurance, right? So this whole craze of people taking these shots of beetroot juice, not debatable because to make beetroot juice, a lot of them, they heat it, and by heating, you're killing the nitrates. So again, make your own beetroot juice. Reduce inflammation, that's a key one because you're removing a lot of the inflammatory causing foods. Okay, so I know with my rheumatoid arthritis, huge improvement. Inflammation, the reason why I decided to run a 100-kilometer trail run is A, because I'm nuts, but B, because even with all the triathlons I've done for years and years, running was my weakest because I couldn't run more than an hour and a half, and then the next day just training. It's like I could really feel it. So the inflammation really used to get me. So my running was my weakest, even though I wasn't that bad, but I couldn't train as much. And then once I cleaned up my diet, I was running a marathon, between 40 and 44 Ks every Saturday is my long run, plus a run on Sunday, plus 2 or 3 more runs during the week. How was it turning that around every week? Because my diet had improved, my inflammation had gone right down. And that is one of the key things, is your recovery. Stronger bones, why? We're not losing calcium as much because we're not creating an acidic environment thanks to the high animal-based foods and, of course, the improved health. This is a vegan burger, vegan cheese, vegan everything, blah, blah, blah. What is wrong with this picture?
Could you just go back that one? Sorry.
Talk to me. It's not whole food, right? But what are the elements of? Fat. What else?
Meat.
No, it's vegan.
Oh, vegan.
It's vegan.
Vegan.
Okay. Saturated fats. Now, your meat replacement patties, the majority of them on the market could potentially have more saturated fat, more sodium than a general meat patty. Okay, so the cheese, how do they get it to melt and make it all taste yum? Lots of oil in there. Okay, your fries, it's all deep fried, it's all lots of sodium. The bun, highly refined white flour. So look, I'll have a burger once in a while. I like to live, I like to experience things, it tastes yum and so on. But to have this as part of your general diet, that's not plant-based. Rush through this. Training is not what gives you the gains. It's the recovery. And part of the recovery is your nutrition, as well as your sleep, as well as your hydration, as well as a whole lot of other factors. But that's where you make the gains. That's the adaptation that happens. It makes you stronger, fitter, faster. Not necessarily the training. Right, what do I eat in a typical day? Oh, whoops, sorry. Oh, they come in.
Calm down.
Real photos taken by me. They're on my Instagram because I want to show their real breakfast. Bowl of oats, soaked overnight, berries, peanut butter, cacao nibs, whatever I can find in terms of fruit, seasonal, great. Lunch, if I'm heading out for the day, salad. These lentils, that'll be a bean of some sort, greens, fruit, I love fruits in there, homemade hummus in there. So lots of fresh food. Those are oats cookies that I bake. I use them for runs. Some fruit balls, big fan of fruit balls. Fruits, whatever's around. So there, fruit, snacks, salad, that's my lunch during the day. In the winter, I generally bulk cook a lot of food, so that's a big soup with, again, beans in there, vegetables, whatever you can get your hands on. I make my own sourdough. It's very easy, very simple. No salt, no oil. Now I can't eat the fake bread anymore. Dessert can still be delicious. That's all whole food. That's can't really see it as clear, but chia seeds with soy milk, and then flavor it up with blueberry powder, cacao powder, whatever. Frozen fruit makes an ice cream and so on. So everything can still taste amazing, taste delicious. It opens up. If you were just a meat eater, it'll be meat with like 2 things. But I've got like 10 different vegetables in there. Variety. Need to finish up. Didn't realize I'm having such a ball. 2 quick things. One, I'm running New Zealand's first fully immersive plant-based running camp, second weekend of January. What this means is, from a running point of view, you can only run an hour, half an hour, or you want to run 6 hours, it doesn't matter. The whole idea is you come out and you exercise and you're out in a fantastic location, but Mount Ruapehu, but all the meals are cooked by us. So we'll do the big shop, and then we'll learn how to eat plant-based, how to live plant-based. I've got predominantly ladies that have signed up. None of them hardcore runners. But anyway, look that up. The other one, I've got my next workshop happening in Auckland in a few weeks' time. It's in Parnell. I was going to do it at the library, but now I might have there's a vegan cheese place in Parnell. They want to have me over, so just got to work that out. I've got, other than my own Fitness Locker sources, Plant-Based Athletes New Zealand is a group on Facebook. That's a community for anyone interested in fitness and health. A lot of other people post on there, which is brilliant. So just trying to create an environment for people to share, to support, and so on. And that's it. Now, I've got literally 2 minutes, maybe not, maybe I should wrap up now. I'm going to be right outside at the desk here, so I can answer questions and we can have a chat. Like I said, I coach athletes, I do consultations, I work with athletes all over New Zealand and Australia, so it doesn't matter where you live. I can certainly help. I am selling tote bags as well if you want to be part of the tribe, the Pump Power tribe. I'm selling those outside as well. But anyway, thank you so much for listening in. And should we do one question quickly to wrap up? Yes.
So how do you work with transitioning people? What do you mean by that? Transitioning people to
We identify your objective, why do you want to change, where you're at right now, and then everybody's different. Some people can go for Turkey, other people need time, depends on the environment they're in. Are you doing it on your own? If you've got a wife, you've got kids, if you travel a lot, and it's got to be realistic. And we put a plan together. So that plan could be in 1 month, you can't pay self-sufficient in it or after 3 months, like, look, I still need a bit of support, I want to learn, I need to go slow. So it really, it's very individual.
Hey, I'm sorry, we're really going to have to wrap it up because there's other talks during here and we can't really be unfair to them. I'd like to thank Ben, it was really comprehensive exposition about why you should go vegan, especially in relation to your sports training. I'm sure, Ben, you will take other questions outside.
Right outside, and I'll be here as long as you keep me inside.
It's a little appreciation.